And so you find yourself getting ready this morning, working out, moving your body, driving to work, feeding those bees, looking for a little bit more revelation. Who wants some more revelation to start their day? Feasting on the revelations of heaven. I don't know about you, but I've tried it all. There's nothing like the revelations of heaven. Can I get an amen? Go in the chat, tell me where you're coming from. Even listening to this later, I love to see where my people are when they tune in. Maybe you're in bed, maybe you're at the gym, maybe you're in Florida, maybe you're in Canada, maybe. Anyways, we are on day 36 of a 54-day challenge. We are on the home stretch. I hope that this has really provided food for your spirit every single morning. Again, as a reminder, we are doing this because it is time to get in the gap of our miracles, that we begin to loose 7 days in a very practical way, right? Because we are not having just a physical experience, we're having a spiritual experience, and we need to be using spiritual tools the way that Jesus did. And so we are in a series that's like cracking all of us up. It's so good to see you, Emily. You look good. She's getting ready. She always looks good. Glad that you're joining. We're in a series. It's cracking up and convicting many of us, and it's called Jesus Never. And the last couple of days, we've been looking at the things that we find ourselves saying that's very normal, Jesus oriented. It's like the slang, it's like the narratives of all the things that we find ourselves saying cause us over time to lower them to fit our narrative, and we don't do that. So what we're doing is we're taking some very normal things and we're forcing them to come back into agreement with what Jesus said, because if we want to be modeling his behavior, bringing heaven to earth, doing what he did, experiencing what he experienced, we should probably talk like him. Someone right, I need to be talking like Jesus. Like, yeah, well, Jesus was perfect. Yeah, but he also told us that we would do even greater things than him. So if he talked excellent, we should be talking supernatural. So today we are talking about this phrase that sounds like, I will when. How many of you are guilty? I will when I retire. I will when I have more money in the bank. I will when I look better. I will when I feel better. I will when it's Friday. I will when it's Monday. I will when it makes sense. Am I reading some of y'all's mail this morning? I will when. I will when. I want you to think about just for a minute, what is the last thing that I will when? I want you to write it down. Because here's the interesting thing. It makes logical sense. It's very rational. It's a very rational way of thinking. I will when my strategic plan tells me. I will when I have more time. I will when I feel better. I will when, right? Alludes to the fact that current realities isn't in alignment with a convenient my current reality is in alignment with a perfect time. My current reality is that, I don't really like it and I don't really feel uncomfortable. So I'm going to do it when. And then what happens is, does when ever come? The reality of most people, no. So where I will winning are guys. Because I will when I'm 20 and then we turn 30. Okay, I will when I'm 40 and then I will when I'm 50. How many of you have even said, I got a New Year's resolution, but I'm going to start it when it's January 1st? How many of you also are that person? This was me for like years before my husband and I got sober. We're like, I'll get sober on when it's Friday, when it's the 15th. That's the best day of the first Monday makes the most sense. And so what we start to do is we're like looking for the most convenient time to do the thing that God's asked us to do, that our spirit man knows we should do. And we've reconciled it with a very strategic notion that tells us that the first Monday of the month makes the most sense to obey God, to chase that dream that God's given us. get healthy, stop the bad habit, where I will winning. Now, here's the reality. We never saw Jesus say this. It's a very practical statement. Like, I will win. I will win. I start feeling that I will win. I will. Jesus really never said, I will win. Jesus was a man of obedience and dependency. It's who he was. Look at the book of John, which I've been loving. I'm diving into John, eating it for breakfast because I cannot get enough of it. It's an incredible book because the first 4 gospels reveal Jesus in a very different way than John. So the first 3 gospels, it really is more of the history of Christ. But John begins to a mystery. And I don't know about you, but I love the mystery of Jesus. We're going to talk a lot about this today, but even in Proverbs, it talks about, is the glory of seal a matter? The glory to seek it out. There is a mystery of God that keeps him God. Because we will not understand why he does what he does in the way and in his timing. We're not supposed to, otherwise we wouldn't need a God. And yet John has this incredible way in this book to start to unveil some of the mysteries. But if you watch and see, even the Pharisees who know scripture are catching it. And Jesus confronts with this over and over and over and over again. But what we see in the book of John is that Jesus is a man of obedience and dependency, which all that suggests that our obedience in God will cause a conscious dependency in him. When we decide to obey him, I will win. God tells me, I will win. He is not when are clear, not when the strategic plan is clear, not when my senses are clear, not when my dad, mom, brothers, cousins, neighbor is clear. When God is clear with what then I will forces this ability for us to go, all right, I need to be dependent in him, because the reality is most of the time when God asks us to do the things he's wanting us to do, it's not convenient. It's simple. Stupid. And so Jesus's life proves this thing. I'm going to show this to you. It proves that he is about God's business, obedient to things that God is asking him to do, and 100% dependent upon God to then do what only God can do in and through his life. So the key here is obedience, which is what we're talking about today, really. I didn't name it that because you were going to come, if I'd be like, let's talk about obedience. You're like, I don't want to do that. I don't, why? Because here's the deal. This is what I say to my kids all the time. Obedience is super simple, but you don't, it's not always convenient. So obedience is easy when my kids know that if I say, hey, I want you to eat all your veggies because you're getting candy, guess what they do? They will eat anything if I'm going to give them candy. Why? Because it's actually not obedience. That's just like logical sense. Eat candy or eat veggies, get candy later. Now, if I tell my kids though, hey, I don't want you to cross the street without mommy being there. If they don't know why, obedience is simple. Don't cross the street if he's not there. It's simple. They don't actually know why. Sometimes it can be more challenging to do. So they want to cross and then will their own way and their own mind. Not using that obedience is actually simple, yet hard to do. Why? Because generally it is outside of my reason and understanding in the moment. And because I can get attached to my own will, way, and time, it's hard to do. That's what's interesting about obedience. Obedience, on the other side of obedience, is everything that we're wanting, yet in this side of the road, I don't understand why I can't go to that side of the road when I want to. Like, what are we talking about? I don't know. We're going to get off on a couple tangents. Here's where we're going today. John 5. We're talking about we're in John 5, and it's the healing at Bethesda. And as we know, Jesus literally walks through his life convicting every person because he is pulling down. He is not there to break the law. He's there to fulfill it. And he's fulfilling it in ways that nobody is expecting that he will. So on this particular day, he is coming to this pool where people will sit on this pool because angels will come down and they provide this healing arena for them. And the first person in the pool is the first one to be healed. Now, you and I now know that when Jesus comes, he is healed. So we don't have to live under the law to do in order to be healed. We just have to believe in order to be healed. He's here in this moment now, approaching a system that has been happening a long time. Verse 5, it says, now there was a man who had been disabled for 38 years, lying among the multitude of the sick. P.S. 38 years is a long time. For some of you are like, well, God's never answered my prayers, and I've been for 17 minutes. This guy living at the pool for 38 years, lying among the multitude of the sick. But he's still there. When Jesus saw him lying there, he knew that the man had been cold for a long time. Jesus said to him, do you truly long to be healed? What he's actually saying is, are you convinced that you are already made whole? What Jesus is asking this crippled man is he ready to abandon how he sees himself to receive the faith for his healing? My gosh, we're going to talk about this later this week, by the way, because this blew my mind. Jesus is literally basically saying, are you okay with letting go of how you see yourself so you can be made whole the way I made you? That already proves right out of the gate that we have a propensity to hold on to our will, our way, our time. We turn our behavior into our identities. This guy's like grabbing on to who he's seen himself as. And Jesus is like, hey, are you actually willing to let go of your narrative, to let go of your beliefs so that I can actually make you whole by believing in who I created you to be? The sick man says, sir, there's no way I can get healed, for I have no one who will lower me into the water when the angel comes. As soon as I try to crawl to the edge of the pool, someone jumps in ahead of me. Jesus says to him, stand up, take up your mat, and you will walk. Immediately he stands up and he's healed. So he rolled up his mat and he walked again. Now, this was a miracle that took place on the Jewish Sabbath. Now, right out of the gate, y'all know what's about to happen. It's the Sabbath day, heal on the Sabbath. That's what the Pharisees are going to say. And the Jewish leaders saw the man walking along, carrying his sleeping mat. Carrying his sleeping mat. They objected and said, what are you doing carrying that? Don't you know it's the Sabbath? It's not lawful for you to carry things on the Sabbath. They're still living under the law, the rules. He answered, the man who healed me told me to pick it up and walk. Told me to pick it up and walk. What man? Who is this man, right? And now they're going on, who is this man? Why did he order you to do this on the Sabbath day? Now, if we skip down to verse 17, they confront Jesus because they're like, what the heck? Why are you doing this? You're breaking the law. They don't even know that Jesus is a savior at this point in time. So Jesus responds to them. Every day my Father is at work, and I will be too. This infuriated them and made them all the more eager to devise a plan to kill him. Not only did he break their Sabbath rules, but he called God my Father, which made him equal to God. Jesus was not there to break the Sabbath. He loosed the Sabbath on this man's life and was showing them that the Sabbath isn't a day, it's a heart. He loosed the bondage of tradition and basically is now saying, no, I am about God, which is single day. He's not dishonoring the Sabbath day. He's losing the heartbeat of the Sabbath on this man and is releasing it from that day forward and inviting to what? Be about God's business. Not I will when it's convenient, not I will when it's based on tradition, not on I will when my strategic plan, not I will when I have more money, it's not I will when God this makes more sense. Jesus is saying I'm here to heal today because God is a healer and I do only what I see my Father doing. If you look at verse 19. Jesus says, I speak to you timeless truth. The Son is not able to do anything from himself or through my own initiative. I only do the works that I see the Father doing. Verse 30, I do is from my own initiative. For as I hear the judgment passed by my Father, I execute judgment, and my judgments will be made perfect because I can do nothing on my own except to fulfill the desires of my Father who sent me. He goes You read now, I was like pouring into this. It goes on and on and on. Jesus is saying, oh, if you look over at verse or chapter 6, and he's literally saying over and over and over again, I have no false motive. I just only seek the glory of God. I have come, John 7, verse 28. I have not come simply on my own initiative. What is Jesus doing? He's literally taking the I will when, and he's demolishing and he's loosing the heartbeat of the Father. That's what Jesus did. He didn't come to break it. He came to break the laws. He came to fulfill it and to loose the revelation of God for us to experience not Sabbath on just one day, but Sabbath as a way of the point that now we don't lower our standards to fit the narrative that it's Sunday, so I can't heal. It's Friday, so I can't get sober. I have no money in the bank, so I can't live free. I have too much hurt of the past, and so I can't forgive. And what Jesus is doing in this moment is he's literally breaking, going, no, I will do what I see the Father doing. Here's why this is inconvenient, because most of you are sitting there going, well, how the heck am I supposed to know what God is doing? I don't know. I don't hear from him. Now we have this, like, opens up so many cans of worms, because it automatically, we start to believe that we don't hear from God. We can't hear from God. There's no answer. And what we're doing is we're still putting him in this box. And he's here to blow the box. He's here to loose, to go, look, I am is doing. And then you and I both know that then he departs and says, and now you will do even greater things than I will. Yeah, but Julia, I haven't heard him. Keep seeking. It is the glory of God to conceal a matter. It is the glory of kings to seek it out. It is our honor to seek out the mysteries of God. If you find yourself and you've been crying, you keep crying to God. You keep getting closer to God and keep asking him. Seeking him, knowing that, like, I want to do this when I want to do this. God, I want to understand what you're doing so I can participate. If you hear God, stop wondering if God is. Stop wondering. Here's what I want you to do. The next time you find yourself at this I want you to start saying to God, God, what are you doing here? And what do you want me to do about it? God, when was the last time I said, God, what are you doing here? What do you want me to do about it? And I want us to live from Matthew 7:7. Ask and the gift is yours. Seek and you will discover. Knock and the door will be opened for you. For every persistent one. Okay, let's hold on. Let's slow the roll here just for a second, because everybody loves Matthew 7:7. Can we talk about Matthew 7:7 now? Ask and the gift is yours. Seek and you'll discover. Knock and the door will be opened to you. Now, we love that because we want to ask one time, seek one time, knock, and that one door to be open. That's actually not how it reads. It's because you have to look at context. Verse 8 says, for every persistent one will get what he asks for. Every persistent seeker will discover what he longs for. And everyone who knocks persistently will one day find an open door. That doesn't say knock one time, ask one time, seek one time. It talks about persisting. And it doesn't say knock on just one door. It says in one day you will find an open door. The note says the one who seeks does not cease until he finds, and in his finding he shall marvel. And having marveled, he shall reign, and having reigned, he shall rest. Why? Because as we're seeking God's realities, knowing that as the Father is doing, so are we too, we begin to reign in life, because we begin to occupy what God already occupies. Our souls start to catch up to occupy in the same way that God does. But there's a process here. We're not God, we're human. And so we're learning to seek him, which obedience is the ability to seek him, not our will, not our way, not our time, seeking him. And when we do this, we marvel at what we find, because when I have high standards and no expectations, I see what God is doing, not just what I want him to do. Here's why this is tricky. So you're like, I'll obey, if I get the candy at the end of the day. No, what if you obey and I'll give you what you actually long for, is what God's saying. That's like my kids are like, no, mom, I just want more candy.